Hi, this is Spider-Man Physics here, and today I'm going to be teaching you about early U.S. history, starting with the American Revolution. So, on the subject of the American Revolution, we're going to start with the Townshend Acts, which imposed a tax on tea, glass, paper, lead, and paint. The Americans did not like this very much, and eventually this led to the Boston Massacre. Well, it didn't really lead to the Boston Massacre, but the Boston Massacre was when several British troops fired into a crowd of Americans, killing a few Americans. Then came the Boston Tea Party, where quite a few Americans dressed as Native Americans and dumped 10,000 pounds, British money, worth of tea into Boston Harbor. And since that was a long time ago, that all that money is worth about $1 million US today. So, anywho, the British countered with the Intolerable Acts. The Boston Port Act was an act that shut down Boston Port until the tea that was thrown to harbor was paid for. The Massachusetts Government Act altered the Massachusetts government, no surprise, and also banned public meetings. The Administration of Justice Act made it so that British soldiers could only be tried in Britain, not the colonies. The Quartering Act made it so that British soldiers could be housed in private homes. Then we arrive on George Washington, who was a very important general for the Americans and helped them win some battles and win their independence. And here we have Washington crossing the Delaware. So, after the establishment of a constitution in America that was very important, we get the Quasi War, which is a fairly obscure war that you may or may not have heard of, where the U.S. fought France about some trading issues they had. Then, a few years after, came the Louisiana Purchase, where Napoleon, wanting money to raise armies in case of a war with Great Britain, sold all of this territory to the U.S. for $15 million. This was kind of nice for the U.S. because they were offering to buy just the city of New Orleans for $10 million. But instead, they got all this territory for $15 million. Effectively doubling the U.S.'s size. So we have Meriwether Lewis and William Clark going into the Louisiana Territory and exploring it. Along the way came Sacagawea, but I'm not going to go into huge detail about their expedition. They were also sent to find the Northwest Passage, so that's it for them. Then we come to the War of 1812, where which was fought over the right of nations to not be interfered in trade by other nations, and it was fought between the U.S. and Great Britain. And here is a painting of the USS Constitution, a fairly famous ship in America, defeating the HMS Guerriere, however you want to pronounce that. Anywho, so then came, here's another part of the War of 1812, and the war ended kind of inconclusively with no real victor and with kind of a status quo. Then we finish off with the Florida Acquisition, which was kind of interesting because the U.S. said that Florida was part of the Louisiana Purchase, and so it should belong to the U.S. But the Spanish weren't very happy about this. So eventually some military action was taken by the U.S. with Andrew Jackson seizing forts in Florida, and so then the U.S. used these military acts to get Spain to cede Florida to them, including this little piece called West Florida, which is the bottom part of Mississippi and Alabama. And so that ends early U.S. history, and I'll see you in the next video.